Boston Celtics could shock the NBA with trade for $97 million center. If you're a fan of the Celtics or simply love the NBA, tell me one thing. How many times have you seen this team hit the post and thought they're missing a decisive pivot? I know how frustrating it is to see the big score suffer, to receive an offensive rebound at the end of the game, to see the defense sink when the game gets tight. We feel that the team is always a big step away from the title. What if I told you that this movement could be now? In today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility of the Boston Celtics shocking the NBA in a trade for a $97 million center, and why he could be exactly the piece that solves this problem and takes the team to another level. So stay with me, because I'm going to show you who this pivot is, what changes in the team, and whether this madness is really worth it. Before we get into the details of this possible bombastic exchange, quickly, if you love the NBA and don't want to miss any hot rumors like this, subscribe to the channel now. Enjoy and leave a like, because this shows YouTube that you enjoy this type of content and it will give you even more of our videos. And activate the notification bell, because when any news about this negotiation comes out, you will be one of the first to know. Once that's done, let's continue, because now I'm going to show you who this $97 million center is, how he fits into the Celtics, and whether this trade is brilliant or complete madness. When the 2025-26 NBA season began, many people already had that strange feeling about the Boston Celtics. It was not the title year atmosphere that had been surrounding the franchise recently. Instead, there was a mix of moderate expectation and a certain fear of what could happen without the team's main name, Jayson Tatum. The Achilles injury suffered by Tatum in last year's playoffs didn't just shake the squad, she messed with the psychology of everyone who follows the NBA. Seeing a player of that level, at the height of his career, leaving the court with support, knowing that he would be out for many months, is one of those scenes that leaves a lasting impression. And, since then, one question has remained in the air. How would the Celtics reinvent themselves without their star? Entering this season, the official discourse was one of caution. Nobody treated Boston as an absolute title candidate anymore. The idea was to compete, maintain a respectable level, but with the awareness that the ceiling without Tatum was lower. So far, with the team recording 9 wins and 8 losses, this prediction has been confirmed. It's not a disaster, it's far from a complete failure, but it's also not what fans have become accustomed to expecting in recent years. At the same time, there are interesting glimpses. In some games, the team shows a solid collective system, a defense that remembers the best recent moments, and an attack in which different players take responsibility. However, when the ball weighs, it becomes clear that there is a lack of someone capable of deciding, someone who can set the pace and command respect. And even with Tatum recovering well and faster than many people imagined, everyone knows that forcing the return of a player coming off a torn Achilles would be a huge risk. In the midst of all this, a weak point has attracted more and more attention: the bottle. The departure of Kristaps Porzingis, traded in the offseason mainly for financial reasons, opened a hole that has not yet been adequately filled. It's not just a matter of statistics, it's about presence, of impact, someone who changes the way opponents attack and defend against Boston. Without Porzingis, and with changes in the cast of big men, the team was more exposed in some situations. In certain games, fans find themselves thinking, "I missed that shot close to the table," or "I couldn't have given up that offensive rebound at the decisive moment." This type of detail, added together, decides the season. In such a competitive conference, every failure in the bottle takes a heavy toll. It is in this context that the discussion arises about what the Celtics should do until the trade deadline. Standing still, just waiting for Tatum to return and hoping everything falls into place? Or act aggressively, looking to the future, but also to the present, and try to reinforce the position that is currently one of the most sensitive in the squad? Many people believe that Boston does not have the profile of a team that throws the season away. Even without Tatum, the franchise's mentality is to compete. When you have a nucleus with high-level players, a consolidated coach, and an established culture, You don't enter the court to just comply with the schedule. The idea of being a buyer on the trade deadline starts to make sense precisely for this reason. It's not just about saving the year, but about preparing the ground for when Tatum is 100%. Among the names that emerge as possible targets, one has recently gained strength and caught the attention of analysts and fans. Nicolas Claxton, center from Brooklyn Nets. And here the conversation gets really interesting. Claxton is not one of those players who appears in every highlight of the league, but for those who follow closely, he has already established himself as one of the most underrated centers in the NBA. He is young, athletic, defensively versatile, and has improved year after year. It's not just a classic rim protector. He is a player capable of making changes on the perimeter, staying in front of guards in pick-and-roll situations, and at the same time contesting shots close to the table. In the current season for Brooklyn, he has been delivering consistent numbers, an average of double-digit points, a good number of rebounds, an interesting number of assists for a center, and blocks per game that show his defensive impact. With solid shooting from the court, Claxton fits the profile of a player who doesn't demand the ball all the time, but contributes constantly in several areas. From a tactical point of view, it's easy to imagine what a center like him could offer the Celtics. Defensively, he would immediately raise the bar's level. His ability to protect the rim and move laterally would give the team more freedom to be aggressive on the perimeter, knowing that there is a safety line back there. In a team that already has a tradition of strong defense, adding a center with this profile could be the detail that transforms a good defense into a truly dominant defense. In attack, Claxton is not a superstar, but he is not a null player either. He finishes very close to the basket, runs the court well, is a constant threat on cuts and aerials, and can punish defenses that forget about him. Alongside creators like Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and other perimeter talents, he could live in spaces, receiving the ball in favorable situations without needing to force individual plays. The idea for Claxton in Boston didn't come out of nowhere. One of the analysts who highlighted this fit was Zach Buckley from Bleacher Report. He not only pointed out the pivot as an interesting target, but went further and suggested a draft trade between the Celtics and Nets. In the proposed scenario, Boston would receive Nicolas Claxton and, in return, send Anthony Simons, a second-round pick in 2026, via Orlando, Detroit, or Milwaukee, and a first-round pick in 2027, protected in the top 5, to Brooklyn. When looking at this proposal, there are many layers to analyze. First, Claxton's value. He is a rising center with good market value who has not yet reached the peak of his career. For the Celtics, it would be a gamble on a player who can contribute now and still grow with the core, especially once Tatum is back. For the Nets, receiving Simons and picks is a way to restructure the roster, gain a perimeter scorer, and draft assets. For Boston, however, it is not a simple decision. Sending draft picks, especially a first-round pick, is never a trivial move. Each choice represents a piece of the future. By accepting this trade, the Celtics would essentially be saying, "We believe our current core, with Tatum healthy, deserves this immediate investment, even if it means giving up some flexibility down the road." But there is another important point: the state of the current bottle. As Buckley himself highlighted, the Celtics weakened the big man rotation with the departures of Porzingis, Luke Kornet, and Al Horford, all motivated by financial and roster-building issues. This left greater responsibility on the shoulders of players like Neemias Queta, who, although he has virtues and potential, is still not at the same level of impact as an already established center like Claxton. When you imagine Claxton wearing green and white, you can clearly see the immediate difference. He would have everything it takes to be the main defensive anchor in the big box, someone capable of giving the team security in half-court plays, closing spaces, contesting shots, and, at the same time, not compromising offensively. In many ways, it would be like taking what is good about current options and adding a few more layers of talent and consistency. Now think about the complete scenario. Tatum recovered, gradually returning to his best level, surrounded by a squad with more balance between perimeter and big box. A team with versatile wings, smart guards, and a center who protects the rim and fits the modern style of the NBA. This is the vision that seduces those who defend the idea of this exchange. It's not just about filling a momentary hole, but building a structure that can support a new window of titles. Of course, every exchange involves risks. Claxton, despite his talent, also raises natural questions. Will he maintain his level on a team with very high expectations? How will you adapt to the Celtics system? How will the physical part respond to a greater load of minutes, especially in playoffs? These are legitimate questions that any board needs to consider before swinging the hammer. But the fact that this type of rumor is gaining ground already says a lot about the current state of the franchise. The Celtics know they can't waste the peak of a player at Jayson Tatum's level. Injuries are part of the sport, unfortunately. But when he is 100%, ideally he will find a squad ready to compete at the top, and this inevitably involves solving the bottle problem. Even if this specific exchange never materializes, Nicolas Claxton's name symbolizes a player profile that makes sense for Boston at the moment. Young, impactful on defense, with room to evolve, and capable of contributing without needing to be the offensive protagonist. It's the type of piece that fits around a star, not competes with him for protagonism on the ball. If you look at the recent history of the league, you will see a pattern. Teams that won the title or fought for it for several years almost always had a center or interior player with a very clear defensive presence, even if he was not the team's media star. He is the player who often doesn't appear so much in the highlights, but makes the difference between the lines. A block at the right moment, a well-made box out, precise defensive help, quick coverage in a rotation. The Celtics today are at an interesting crossroads. They have a competitive but incomplete squad. They have a star in recovery, but with the potential to return among the best in the league. They have a demanding fan base, which has become accustomed to seeing the team always close to the top. And they have before them the real possibility of using the trade deadline not just as a patch, but as a strategic step towards the future. Keeping an eye out for names like Nicolas Claxton isn't just mid-season entertainment. It's part of the reading of where the franchise can go. In an ideal scenario, Boston comes out of this transition phase with two well-defined things: Tatum healthy and a solid big man capable of sustaining the defensive identity that marked the best recent versions of the team. Meanwhile, every trade rumor, every proposal suggested by analysts, every behind-the-scenes speculation fuels the debate. And this debate is important because it raises a central question on the table. To what extent is it worth investing heavily now to ensure that the next few years will be a real title fight? In the end, the idea of the Boston Celtics shocking the NBA with a big trade for a center with $1 million contract isn't just a flashy headline. It is a reflection of a real need, a challenging context, and a search for answers at a crucial moment in the franchise. Whether or not Claxton will be that answer, only time and the decisions of those who lead the team will tell. But one thing is certain. For a team that doesn't accept staying in the middle of the road, continuing to watch the center market carefully is not an option. It's an obligation. So that's it. Either the Celtics face the bottleneck problem head-on now, or they run the risk of wasting another piece of Jayson Tatum's prime, waiting for a miracle to fall from the sky. The right move at the right time could be the difference between another good campaign and a team ready to dominate the East again. Now, I want to hear from you. Would you do something crazy for a center at that level, or would you hold back on the picks and risk being left behind? Leave your opinion in the comments, because I will read everything and interact with you. And if you want to continue this in-depth analysis of the Boston Celtics, check out the Celtics Analysis playlist, which is in the comment pinned below. There, I separated several videos breaking down the cast, possible changes, tactical adjustments, and the future of the franchise. Did you finish this video? Go down there, click on the Celtics Analysis playlist in the pinned comment, and continue marathoning. If you're truly Celtics all the way, that's where you have to be right now.